Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
We could have a big shakeup in the GOP gubernatorial field with the Bureau of State Elections finding both James Craig and Perry Johnson should not be on the ballot. In fact, the Bureau recommending a total of 5 Republican candidates for governor should be disqualified, so that would cut the field of 10 in half.
We've talked about how big the field is. It could go like that. The Bureau says their petitions are filed with fraudulent signatures, and the campaigns do not have enough valid signatures to make the primary ballot. Mara McDonald following this tonight. She's in Farmington Hills. We've seen signature problems before, Mara, but nothing like this.
Devin, this is an epic implosion. There's just no other way to say it. I mean, the kind of thing that ends up in a campaign textbook as a cautionary tale. Let me take you through it. A Bureau of Elections investigation into questionable signatures found both James Craig and Perry Johnson do not have adequate signatures, and they're not alone. 3 other lesser-known GOP gubernatorial hopefuls are in the same boat.
Mara, I'm a fighter. I'm not going to roll over and play dead. And you know what? It's not just about me. It really is about fighting for the folks that believed in me.
The victims of massive fraud by paid signature gatherers who forged signatures. For example, the Bureau of Elections says 18 people who were hired to collect signatures for Craig submitted 10,000 forged signatures of the 21,000 collected. So after all is said and done, who ultimately bears responsibility?
So there's campaign malfeasance on 2 fronts. It's the people who fraudulently turned in these signatures, but the campaign should have had a mechanism by which they are viewing and vetting these signatures before they're actually paying these people for them.
Perry Johnson's campaign sending out a statement tonight, which in part reads, "We strongly believe they are refusing to count thousands of signatures from legitimate voters who signed the petitions and look forward to winning this fight before the board and, if necessary, in the courts." The State Board of Canvassers meets Thursday to decide whether these candidates will make the ballot. But that's not all that's at stake here. So you think somebody's going to jail?
Somebody should absolutely go to jail for this. This was done intentionally. It is a violation of law. There are fines that are set out. So yes, somebody should be punished for this.
Back here live, according to the State Bureau of Elections and its reports that it released tonight, it's clear that that is also in the works, that these petition gatherers who were submitting fraudulent signatures, well, they're in the process of amassing all the info and sending it off to the authorities. We're live in Farmington Hills tonight. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
So, Mara, our attention will turn now to the Board of Canvassers, made up of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. We heard Perry Johnson's thoughts on what happened here. He seems to think that there's some hijinks going on, but it's kind of hard to politicize this at this point, right? I mean, either the signatures are valid or they aren't.
That's right. You either have the signatures or you don't have the signatures. I don't know what could possibly happen at the State Board of Canvassers this week that would change that up. But, Devin, I don't think that's the last stop. I think Johnson's campaign made it clear that they'd consider a legal challenge and taking it to court. When I talked to the former chief tonight, I mean, he hasn't ruled out a legal challenge as well. So it's not over Thursday.
Yeah, pretty high drama, and we haven't even arrived anywhere close to the primary yet. All right, Mara.
All right, a big gathering tonight in Oakland County with family, friends, and community members coming together to remember 2 young lives cut short due to gun violence. Cameron Duckworth and Drake Mansuko were found shot and killed over the weekend at a mobile home park in White Lake Township. Tonight, police have 2 suspects in custody. Pamela Osborne is live in White Lake Township with tonight's emotional vigil to remember the 16 and 20-year-olds. Pam.
Well, Kimberly, this was the scene of a horrible tragedy. These 2 young men were just starting their lives and then they were taken. People gathered tonight here, though, to fill this space of darkness with light and love.
Every morning is just going to be a reoccurring nightmare. He's not there. He's not going to be there. He's not coming home.
Emily Duckworth suffering a loss greater than most of us could even imagine.
I was just so thankful for him, and I just don't want him to be gone. especially like this.
Her 20-year-old son, Cameron Duckworth, was killed here alongside his friend, 16-year-old Drake Mansuko. His girlfriend, Lily Kennedy, says Drake loved being around people.
He was caring. I always felt safe with him. And he always had a heart for everyone.
The loved ones they left behind came together to remember who they were and how they lived.
I practically spent my whole childhood with that kid. And I wouldn't be who I am today without him.
There was laughter and tears, and in that darkness, bits of light.
Drake was always the first one out there to go hit those rails and try the first thing first. Even though he did slip off and break his wrist, he still had a great attitude about it. That kid was sticking out of the arm. Yeah.
No one can make sense of what happened to them or why, but Drake's dad did share this. He reminded everyone how important it is to tell your kids you love them.
Tell your mom you love her. Tell your dad you love him. Tell your son, I love you.
And as we said, police do have 2 suspects in custody. They have not said any more than that. As for these families, there is a GoFundMe account for Cameron and his family. We're posting that information on our website for anybody who would like to help at clickondetroit.com. Reporting live tonight, I'm Pamela Osborne, Local 4.
Senseless violence again. Okay, Pam, thank you.
3 days later, the destruction is still hard to believe. The community of Gaylord only in the early stages of picking up the pieces after being hit Friday by that EF3 tornado that killed 2 people. Nick Monticelli continues our coverage from Gaylord, where some families today got their first up-close look at what the storm left behind.
Please. Go get in the bathtub! It has now been more than 72 hours since that EF3 hit Gaylord, but the devastation is still hard to grasp.
I'm thinking I can't hold on to my wife and my son tight enough I wasn't thinking about myself.
Today, many residents came through trying to find what's left of their homes and their lives, while others are still fighting for life in a hospital.
There was one guy that had splinters, boards, 2x4s sticking out of him. He was bleeding, he was twisted.
Help has been pouring in from across the state and the country. Like Lori Beck, who drove 4 hours from the UP.
Just because if it had happened to me, I would want people to come volunteer for me.
Most of the damage is in this mobile home park, but there's plenty across M32 as well, like the Goodwill store.
Standing there looking at the umbrellas, and then somebody went running to the back going, "Run for the break room!"
Or Quaker State Oil Change, where Steve Renau yelled for his co-workers to take cover inside the pit, saving their lives.
Somebody told me that, but you just think that would be second nature for the people that you work with or care about.
And that's the point. This is horrifying, but not as bad as the lives lost and the 40+ hurt.
You know, you just pick up the pieces and move on. That's all you can do. Try and put it behind you. Be grateful you're alive.
As you can hear behind me, the cleanup continues. This will go on for weeks, if not months. The AG's office is partially on the ground. They'll be here a little bit more tomorrow looking at price gouging, hoping that's not happening. And FEMA is going to be here Wednesday looking at what additional cleanup is going to be necessary. We're in Gaylord. Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
Okay, Nick, right now Detroit officers are searching for 4 persons of interest in connection to shots fired at officers.
Yeah, this happened early Saturday morning near the Davison and Dexter on the city's west side. Police said they were responding to a drag racing incident when a man hanging out of a car fired 8 shots at their patrol car. Now, no one was hurt. They tell us 3 other people were inside the shooter's car.
As they approached the vehicle to just inexplicably get shot at, and this is the moment we're going to take your life because you're going to interfere with our fun. That's just absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
Chief White is asking these 2 men and 2 women to turn themselves in. He says if they don't, they could face charges of being accessories to assault to commit murder.
The parents of Justin Schilling have now been added to a state lawsuit against Oxford schools. Justin was one of 4 students shot and killed last November. His parents have also filed a new federal lawsuit targeting Oxford community schools, teachers, counselors, and administrators.
We're beyond heartbroken. We're traumatized, and we're devastated, and we are not okay. It's been 174 days since he was murdered. and it feels like it was just last week. For me, there will never be healing. There will only be coping.
You only wish that they will have what you had when you graduated, you know, the fun times with your friends, the parties.
The attorney representing the families says the point of the lawsuits is finding out for the families what went wrong.
COVID cases in children have now increased for 6 straight weeks. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, the number of new infections up 72% from just 2 weeks ago. From May 12th to May 19th, more than 107,000 children tested positive for the virus. That's the highest we've seen since February. Among all age groups, there's about 100,000 new cases per day. Here in Michigan, we'll be getting our next COVID update on Wednesday of this week.